Welcome everyone. My name is Kelsey Jaggard and I'm the warehouse manager here at YYC Growers and Distributors. I'm a settler in Treaty 7 territory, which is the traditional territory of the Kainai, Piikani, Tsuut'ina, Tsuut'ina, and the Stoney Nakoda, Wesley, Bearspaw, and Chiniki nations, and the Métis Nation of Region 3. And I'd like to acknowledge, as we are all working on this land base and as we are all working with living beings that are our plants that we are fostering in the ground, that we wouldn't be able to be here without that ongoing stewardship from those nations and from those First Peoples. This is our first education session in our YYC Growers Education series that's focused on helping Calgarians and just other people connect with their local food systems and connect with the people behind it. So if you've never heard of YYC Growers and Distributors, so we're a farmer-owned cooperative that works to ensure local, fresh, and nutrient-dense food grown in Calgary and Southern Alberta makes it into the bellies of our subscribers in the Calgary area on a weekly basis. So if you'd like more information, you can visit yycgrowers.com and learn a little bit more. But today, I'm here to talk with the one and only Dennis Scanland. Hello, Dennis.
Hello. How's it going, Kelsey?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. So it's awesome to be chatting with you this morning. So today we're going to talk about CSAs, or community supported agriculture, what it is, what the benefits it has for local farmers and community members. But first, I'd like to turn it over to you and get you to introduce yourself to these fine folk that are with us today.
Sounds good. Well, yeah, my name is Dennis. I started urban farming back in 2013. I started a company called Dirt Boys, and I was leaving the tech industry to kind of spend a little bit more time with my family and kids, that sort of thing. So I was looking for something to do. So I enjoyed gardening and growing vegetables. So I decided that I would give this a shot. I kind of had the mindset that I would build gardens for people, and I knew that that was extremely seasonal. So I kind of did some more research, and I found some information on spin farming from a fellow out in Saskatchewan called YYC. And he was kind of had this model about growing vegetables in people's backyards, unused backyards, converted lawns to gardens, that sort of thing. And it just appealed to me. And so during that 2012-13 winter, I did some search for some land base. I found a few yards, and that was the birth of Dirt Boys Urban Farming. And then from there, I had a pretty good year, but I found throughout the season, I was at the farmers markets, a few farmers markets, and I was sitting there with probably, I think there was 4 other urban farms at the farmers markets. There was myself, there was Rod Olson, who's president of YYC Growers, Jeremy Clyde, who had, I think his name was Urban Sunflower, and then Kai Kocher, who had at that point Hillhurst Micro Farms. And all 4 of us were at the same farmers market. And I kind of, we did fine. Kai and I shared a table together, and Rod and Jeremy shared a table together, but we would always sit and chat with each other. And we're like, this doesn't make sense for all 4 of us to be at the farmers market at the same time with a limited number of vegetables. So that winter, we started in conversations about creating a society, a group that we could sell together. And that was kind of the birth of YYC Growers that winter, and it was kind of cool. It was one of those things that we had some meetings. We were kind of discouraged. Some people were like, "No, it's not going to work. You should always just look after yourself. Don't work together." And that's not who I am. I like working with people. And Rod, Kai, and myself, and a few others really kind of pushed it forward. And we the next summer we had our very first CSA, which we'll get into in a moment about what those are. But kind of cool because it was all urban vegetables at that point. Everything was grown within the city. And so we did. We started off with 65 shares to start with. We were shooting for 50. And then we hit 65, so we were pretty excited about that. We were a little nervous because we had no idea if we could actually pull it off. And then that year went quite well. And then the next year we got up to 80, And we realized if we wanted to grow anymore that we'd have to invite rural farms into the mix. And so that's what we did. We obviously, being at the farmers market every week, we made some pretty good friends with some rural farms, and they're still part of YYC Growers today, most of those people. So, and then I think that year we jumped up to something like 400 shares, 450. So, go from 80 to 450, it's a whole different model. And I was a little scared. We ended up in the warehouse that you're in right now, Kelsey, and it's been, kind of a whirlwind last little while. But one thing the pandemic has done is increase the importance of local food. So we noticed that almost immediately last March. It's like shut down and sales just went skyrocketed. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind here, especially as soon as the pandemic hit. A lot of the times, like, we started a new home delivery program, and people just really flocked for food security, for food that was grown local, that didn't have to cross a border. You didn't have to worry about any transportation issues. So it was really awesome. And wanting to just support that local economy, Calgarians really pulled together and stepped up, and especially for the food they're putting into their bodies, to step up in a way that supports their health was awesome to see. So I think that was a really important one.
I wanted to touch on the buying local piece, because I do believe that CSAs is very important for that. But more importantly, I think, again, I kind of feel like I'm preaching to the converted here, but buying local, and I think if you can convince your friends, family, whatever, to do something like this, it's so important, not just for awesome, amazing food and vegetables, but for the economy as well. The economy, like they say that for every dollar that's spent locally, like with a local based company, 95 cents of that dollar stays within the city. Mm-hmm. So if that makes sense. So that's not just like YYC Growers. That's the accountants you guys use. That's the lawyers you guys use. That's the different venues that you guys use, the different companies that you use to support the marketing, the printing, all of that sort of thing. Those dollars stay within the city. And it's like when you're talking about a local economy, you have to understand the importance. It's not just awesome, healthy vegetables. It's not just the environment. It's the economy itself. And these days, the economy is super, super fragile. And for us to go, buying cheap vegetables at Walmart is not how we're going to make this work, because there's a cost for cheap. If you want cheap vegetables, there's a cost, right? And it's an environmental cost. It's an economy cost, all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fiona just said the circle of life.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, let's shrink that circle. That's my thinking, is like, just kind of jump into every time you're out buying vegetables or food or anything, like, read the label. Where's it from? Number one, is it from Calgary? If not, is there another option from Calgary? Is it from Alberta? If not, is there another option from Alberta? Is it Canadian? And then if you can't find Canadian olive oil, you're going to have to buy it. And that's where you save money, right? On those things that are imported. Buy the cheap stuff if that's what you want, right? But anything that you can buy locally, buy local and pay an extra dollar for it or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. What do you believe the importance is of connecting people to the food that they eat?
Oh, I think, it's funny because, I just had this salad last night I think I sent it to you, the Inspired Go, I think is the name of the company. Mm-hmm. And it's like a packaged salad. And again, I'm not really a big fan of kind of those food prep kits, that sort of thing. But this was so great. It was nicely packaged with recycled plastic, and had all the bits and pieces, that sort of thing. And all of the vegetables and food were from Alberta. So it just, you kind of felt great about it. It tasted so good. It was so fresh. And you just can't help but know that it's healthy for you as well, rather than, some of those bagged products you see at Safeway or Superstore, that sort of thing. I mean, some of them are local, but again, this was uber local and so fresh. And so I think that's part of it. And then, I think we'll get into the CSA side of things, but connecting with the farmers and knowing who's growing your food.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, and that's something that we're actively working on, is making sure people know that when they get their arugula, they got it from Michael, or they got their potatoes from John. And creating those connections, I think, is really important when it comes to connecting people to where their food is growing, and where it can come from within our province already, which is awesome.
Yeah. I saw a question on there. I saw a question about Dirt Boys, and they are still part of YYC Growers. I have sold the company since, but again, I'll get into that later. Michael Gavin is running Dirt Boys now, and he's probably, I'm gonna say, one of the best urban farmers the city's ever seen.
Yeah, he's a pretty awesome guy, and I can't wait to see what he's planting this summer and what we get to put into the boxes of people around town. Yeah. So YYC Growers is essentially community-supported agriculture. So for those of you tuning in who are YYC Growers members and subscribers, listen up, because you're part of an amazing local food system, which Dennis is going to teach us about. So Dennis, first off, what is community-supported agriculture?
Well, it's funny because we kind of had this, when we're starting community supported agricultures, we changed it to community shared agriculture. And just like sharing, I guess, yeah, sharing local, like sharing food from, that sort of thing. Supported sounds like a charity program, which, I mean, getting into it, it kind of is in that sort of thing, but more, I think if we can kind of change the model of CSA to be community shared agriculture, it's a direct relationship with the farms. So YYC Growers and Distributors, it's funny because we kind of fell out of the model on a CSA, because CSA is supposed to be direct to farm. So there's other companies out there, other local farms that are doing CSAs that are everything's grown on that farm for that particular customer. YYC Growers, again, a little bit different because we've got a co-op, still technically a CSA because we're farmer-owned cooperative. So every single farm that's involved with YYC Growers is an owner in YYC Growers. So it's kind of a cool thing. Kelsey, how many farms are there now? 15 or so?
There's 15 member farms, and then we also pull produce from other farms that we're just partnership.
Right. So it's so what happens with that? It's as your members probably know, you're paying all of this money up front. I know it's a little bit different with YYC Growers because they have nice payment plans, that sort of thing. But typically with a CSA, you pay all of the money up front, and then you get your dividends, being vegetables, all year round. So you actually have a share in the farm. So it's kind of a cool model because, as you may or may not know, a farm requires that money up front. That's when a farm needs money, is at the beginning of the season, for irrigation, for seeds, for everything that goes on the farm, equipment repair, transportation, all of this sort of thing that's required up front. And a traditional farming model, you don't see that money until later in the season. Like, for instance, you start planting now, you typically don't see any income until June, July, that sort of thing, when you first start getting your first harvest in to market, to restaurants, all that sort of thing. So it's a very important model. It's a weird one because a lot of people kind of, they don't really like the idea of not really knowing what they're going to get. Right. So that's the tricky part. But I think that's also the magic of the CSA, because you start to know what's growing locally, what's growing seasonally as well. What you can grow in Alberta. One of the cool things I wanted to mention, though, is that when we first did our first year-round CSA, we were panicked. We're like, can we do this? Right?
Yeah.
Can you actually provide Alberta produce all year round? We blew it out of the park. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. We didn't bring one vegetable. We did bring butternut squash that year from BC, but that was it. Everything else was from Alberta, and it was just so amazing. It was actually a really, really good box all winter long. So, and as you know, we're providing amazing vegetables. There's not a lot of fresh vegetables other than hydroponics and aquaponics and that sort of thing right now, but it's all root crops that people have stored, and we have great storage systems and great farms that grow amazing vegetables that do last that long.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I think a lot of people are really excited for, is this whole winter. It's been a lot of hydroponic stuff and a lot of roots and a lot of squash. So I'm really excited, especially for the summer to roll around and then see that seasonal influx of food come back in that we haven't seen the entire year, which is going to be really awesome.
Don't get all upset about all the greens, the fresh greens that start coming in, because I remember that was the complaint when we were doing it years ago. Like, you hit the start of the CSA, which is end of May, whatever. You're just getting greens and that's it, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, enough already!" But be grateful. This is amazing. This is all you can get at this time of year, and that's the whole point of eating seasonally.
Mm-hmm. And so what is the importance of like eating seasonally, and like what are the benefits for just kind of I guess like environmentally, and then when it comes to like farmers being able to support themselves as well?
Well, I think it's, you probably, I think you just nailed it all right there.
There you go.
Yeah, done. Seasonally, I mean, it's super fresh, right? These products are grown. They're basically, when I was doing Dirt Boys, I harvested on Monday. You would have those in your share on Wednesday. Like, you don't get that at the grocery stores. You don't. Like, most of this stuff is coming from California, Mexico, some even Chile, that sort of thing. So they're not picked the previous day or 2 days. They're probably 2 weeks old by the time they get to you. So they're picked not quite ripe yet, all that sort of thing. So there's some freshness. There's the nutritional value. Most of the farmers that were involved with YYC growers are super, super concerned with nutrient density in foods. That means like making sure that the soil is well taken care of. If you have really well tended soil and you're not spraying fertilizer and herbicides and pesticides in all the time, then you are actually getting a super high density, nutrient dense food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you don't have those kind of chemicals that are in the soil, especially, it doesn't block those nutrients from getting into the food. So even if the food is being stored right now for however many months, just because we harvested everything in September, that nutrients is staying in those carrots. So the carrots that we have now are still these super flavorful, sweet carrots that have probably over twice the amount of nutrients that you'd find at a grocery store as well. So you can buy a 5-pound bag of carrots from the grocery store and get a 2-pound bag of carrots from a local grower, and they're going to have the same amount of nutrients because the soil that we're working with is way healthier, it's
sure hard to market that though, isn't it?
I know.
When you're comparing apples to apples, literally, and you're like, oh, this 5-pound of carrots is the same as this 2-pound bag of carrots. No, I want the bigger one, right? Like, it's just our mentality these days. So some other person just mentioned about the environmental impact too, and I just wanted to touch on that too. And it's if you're thinking about shipping from the biggest thing is like, how often do you see vegetables from New Zealand and that sort of thing? Is that really sustainable? Does that make sense at all to be buying vegetables? Even like a lot of apples and stuff come from New Zealand, and I'm like, we grow amazing apples right next door. Buy BC apples, people. Like, don't buy New Zealand apples. Maybe even Washington. You could argue that's not that far. That's not much further than the Okanagan. But people argue the fact that, okay, well, this is all being shipped in bulk and the environmental impact is not that bad. But I can't reason that. There's no reasoning behind shipping something from even California opposed to Bowden, right? Someone throwing a truckload of vegetables on in Bowden and a truckload of vegetables from California, there's got to be a difference there. So.
Yeah, and I guess just for people to know who are listening in, for YYC growers, the stuff that we're currently carrying, we only get 2 products that are from outside of the province, and it's Saskatchewan and BC. We get BC fruit, and then Saskatchewan, we're getting some awesome grains. But other than that, everything is kind of within the southern Alberta realm, within about 400, 300 kilometers north or south of Calgary, which is awesome to be able to reduce that carbon footprint, but then also to be able to send a message to a farmer on Friday afternoon and just place our order, get it picked over the weekend, and then get it dropped off the following Tuesday here at the warehouse. And then we distribute it out to people that week. So I think that freshness is you can taste it. It's there, and it's awesome.
And oh gosh, for the heart too. Like, it feels so good, right?
So traditional CSAs are usually one that, like you said, you buy a share with one farm and you have that share for the entire summer. And it's usually just one farm that you subscribe to. So what do you think the benefits are, for example, with YYC growers being able to pull from 15 to 25 farms for a CSA?
You just said it. That's, you know, a single farm CSA would be limited in the number of crops that they can provide to you. You get a cool diversity with YYC growers. I mean, you know, you've got like I said, aquaponics. I'm sure you'll get into aquaponics on one of your information sessions, so I won't get into it. Hydroponics, greenhouse. You get amazing root crops. You get amazing kind of what do you call it? Value-added things like that are made right here in the city, like sunbucha, you know, all that sort of thing. So you get all of this, all of these great varieties of crops that are put in there, and you also get exposure to. You kind of feel a bit of an attachment, at least I would, to 15 farms as opposed to just a single farm. I know there's single farms out there. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention them, but they're allowed. Yeah, like Blue Mountain Biodynamic Farms, one of the best farmers here in Alberta, and they do a single farm CSA, and it's amazing, and people are so loyal to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's something that we found too is having this like super loyal following of YYC growers who are just very excited because again, when I went to university, that's where I first learned about supporting kind of local food systems and getting away from the grocery store model, but I had no way of actually connecting to those local farmers. Even if you go to a farmer's market, some of the farmers there are still bringing stuff in that's from outside of Alberta or even outside of Canada. So it was really hard to even connect, even when you did go to a farmer's market. So kind of having it condensed into one kind of easily accessible thing for me, as someone who was trying to find a way to get into it, this seemed like a godsend of an idea. Which was awesome. Yeah, I'm going to open it up. If anyone has any questions for Dennis, it's totally up to you. If you wanted to either type it in the chat or if you wanted to unmute yourself and say hello and ask Dennis a question, that would be awesome. Give you a couple seconds to type one in. But yeah, so Dennis, I guess you sold Dirt Boys, so you're not actively farming right now. But what are you doing?
As we said, I don't even have a backyard garden right now. I feel almost handicapped. So I just recently moved into. What was that?
You need your dirt.
I know. I feel I've lost my superpower. But anyway, I started a company a few years ago called Sunny Cider, and it's a local cider manufacturer here in town. And it kind of got started on the same principles as YYC growers. We had a bunch of neighbors that were kind of going around picking apples locally here in Sunnyside, and we thought, well, let's make cider. And the first year or two, it was awful. It was horrible cider. But then we started kind of getting the formulas right and the mixes right, the yeast and all that sort of thing. My business partner, Tim, went to University of Washington and took some cider making classes. And we make some of the, like, no word of a lie, some of the best cider I think I've ever had before. And we still work super big on the local piece. We have probably, I'm going to say 70% of our fruit comes from the Okanagan, and the other 30% comes from Calgary. We do a local fruit collection program in the fall, and like last year we had something about like 7,000 liters of juice made from Calgary, not just apples but pears, and we actually have a plum cider out right now that made with this variety called Mount Royal plums that are here in town. So it's very cool. So that piece, and then we just picked up another label called Bramble, and Bramble's another piece, another cider that we do that's a little bit more experimental, but again, super local. All the juice comes from the Okanagan. So
yes, everyone's growing apples in their backyard. You can actually donate your apples to go into the cider here in Calgary.
Watch for that. That'll probably be like end of August, early September, and we pay you in Calgary dollars. Mm-hmm. So that you can come and spend. You can spend Calgary dollars at YYC growers, can't you?
You can.
Yeah.
another way of kind of keeping the money pretty local here in Calgary, which is awesome. So if anyone's a subscriber to that, you can use them here or with Dennis. Yeah, and then I guess a question, maybe a final question, if no one else has another one for you, Dennis, is so you call yourself an accidental activist. And within the local food system and within other chats you've had, I've heard you mention that about yourself too. So
where'd you pull that from? Holy, I haven't heard that for a long time.
I know, right?
You've done your research.
So what about the local food system are you most passionate about? Like, is there a certain topic?
Well, I think we've talked about it mostly. It's the buying local. It's the, and for me, it turned into, I got into growing vegetables and starting YYC growers and all that sort of thing. And I didn't realize, I didn't even know what food security was, food sustainability, all that sort of thing. And that's why I say I'm kind of an accidental activist, because I jumped into it not really knowing all of the environmental impacts, all of the social and economic impacts as well, and realized that it's such a huge problem that we have in our society. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is trying to support each other, trying to buy local. And again, I keep going back to buy local. Like, don't friggin' buy Budweiser, everybody. Stop buying Budweiser. Buy like real craft beer. Like, support, you pay an extra couple bucks for it and enjoy some really good beer that's made here in town by passionate brewers, right? Instead of a big corporation like Labatt's that doesn't need another dollar to their name. They're doing just fine, thank you. I think that's the biggest piece is I'm passionate about local business and local economy. Buy Local is another network that you guys could probably experience, look into. It's a group of local businesses that just kind of try and help each other out. We try to, if we're looking for a service, we go there first to see if we can find a service that they provide rather than going outside of that network. And yeah.
Yeah, is that the Be Local?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, if no one has any more questions, I'm just gonna kind of say thank you and check out for the rest of the day. And buy Sunny Cider. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Thank you all for coming, and thank you so much, Dennis. Go support Dennis. Get some cider. He's got a beautiful tap room.
Unfortunately, closed to sit-down service right now.
Do you have a patio?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Sweet. Well, thanks everybody. And I will see you next in a couple weeks.
Okay.
See ya.